Imagine you wake up tomorrow and your bank account has so many zeros your phone tries to autocorrect it into a Bible verse that you're excited. Obviously, you're generous. You want to bless people. You want to change your family story. And then something weird happens. Prices shift. People act different. Friends you love start talking to you like you're a walking ATM with feelings. Business partners you trusted suddenly discover urgent opportunities that somehow require your money. And the world around you changes, not because you became evil, but because incentives changed. Now take that exact feeling and scale it up to an entire region. Because today we're telling the story of Mansa Musa, the ruler whose wealth didn't just make headlines, it moved markets. His journey was so loaded with gold that historians say it diluted the value of gold in Cairo for years. This is the gold shock, a true story where wealth behaves like gravity. It pulls and it bends everything nearby. By the end, why money changes the world around you, even if you mean well. We're going deep today, but I'll keep a trail of breadcrumbs so nobody gets lost in the rabbit hole. You'll learn how a West African empire became a global legend of abundance. What actually happened when Musa entered Cairo with absurd amounts of gold? The real lesson: systems don't care about your intentions. Money moves incentives. And the modern mirror. I finally made it. Why is everything changing around me? Let's go. Before Musa ever becomes a walking economic event, we need to understand his ordinary world. He ruled the Mali Empire, a power in West Africa that grew wealthy through control and taxation of trade in gold and salt and other valuable goods moving along trans-Saharan routes. And here's the first mindbender. Most people imagine medieval Africa as isolated, but Mali was connected, through trade, scholarship, diplomacy, and faith, into a broader world that included North Africa and the Middle East. Musa's Islam and his pilgrimage would plug Mali into that international network even harder. Think of it like this: Mali wasn't offline. Mali was on strong Wi-Fi, except the router was the Sahara and the password was "bring something valuable or don't talk to me." Musa inherits a wealthy state, then expands its prestige and connections. But wealth on paper isn't the same as wealth that becomes myth. And Musa is about to turn his money into a story the world can't stop repeating. That in 1324, Musa sets out on the Hajj, the pilgrimage to Mecca. Now, for a ruler, this isn't only spiritual. It's also geopolitical. A pilgrimage is like arriving at the center of a civilization and saying, "Here I am. This is who we are. This is how serious we are." And Musa shows up not with a modest hello. He shows up with an entourage that sources describe as massive. Britannica even describes a caravan of about 60,000 people. 60,000. That's not a travel group. That's a mobile nation. That's the kind of group chat where your phone just gives up and starts smoking. And he's carrying huge amounts of gold. Why does that matter? Because when you inject a gigantic quantity of a valuable commodity into a market fast, you don't just help people. You change the math of the world around you. Let's respect the physical reality for a second. The Sahara is not a big sandbox. It's a test of planning, water, timing, security, and logistics. Musa's pilgrimage wasn't just rich, it was organized. And that's our first hero journey lesson. The treasure is not the gold. The treasure is the system that can move it. A lot of people want wealth. Few people build the operational discipline that makes wealth portable and survivable. Musa didn't just have money. He had what modern founders dream of: cash flow and project management. And then Musa arrives in Cairo, the beating heart of regional commerce and politics, that he meets the ruler of Mamluk Sultanate, Al-Nasir Muhammad. Now here's where the story shifts from rich king travels to economic folklore backed by historical reporting. The historian Al-Amari recorded that gold's value in Egypt dropped after Musa's visit, measured by the exchange rate between a mythical of gold and dirhams, at a commonly cited line. paraphrased carefully, is that gold had been high. Then after they arrived, it cheapened, with the mythical not exceeding about 22 dirhams for years. And Britannica summarizes the impact plainly. Musa's lavish spending and gift-giving diluted gold's value and affected Cairo's economy for at least about 12 years. Paused? That's wild. Point one man's generosity becomes a multi-year market effect. But let's make it understandable. Without losing the deep truth, here's the breadcrumb trail. Gold is valuable partly because it's scarce, that if a huge amount of gold enters one market quickly, gold becomes less scarce there, relative to goods, services, and silver. When gold becomes less scarce, it takes more gold to buy the same thing, or equivalently gold's value shifts relative to other currencies/metals. Merchants respond fast because merchants are basically human calculators with rent due tomorrow. So even if Musa's intent is charity, the system outcome is price movement. This is why I said, systems don't care about your intentions. Money moves incentives, and scholars have debated how dramatic the shock was. Historian Warren Schultz argued that the shift described may fall within normal fluctuations in Mamluk-era gold values, even if Musa's arrival became the famous anecdote everyone repeats. So the responsible way to say it is, contemporary and later sources reported a noticeable effect. Britannica says the impact endured for years, and historians debate the scale while still treating the story as meaningful evidence of how markets respond to sudden inflows. That's the deep view. Now we hit the hero's journey moment people skip because it ruins the richest man ever fantasy. Multiple accounts say Musa and his followers bought so much that they later had to borrow money in Egypt, running into debt and reselling goods. Let that sink in. A man famous for gold experiences a moment where the resources feel used up. That is not a contradiction. That's the lesson, because wealth isn't just how much. Wealth is liquidity, access, timing, obligations, and the cost of moving through the world. Humor beat. Translation: you can be legendary rich and still get hit with insufficient funds for this specific moment, in this specific place, because your money is currently shaped like camel saddles. Now we bring it home, because this isn't just history. It's a mirror, modern mirror question. I finally made it. Now why is everything changing around me? Because when your wealth changes, three things change immediately. 1. Your social gravity changes. People orbit you differently. Not always with evil intent, sometimes with hope, fear, or survival instincts. 2. Your risk profile changes. You become a target for bad deals, fake friends, expensive status, games, emotional manipulation disguised as support. 3. Your environment responds to new incentives, just like Cairo's market responded to gold inflow. Your personal ecosystem responds to your new money flow. If you start paying everyone's bills, the incentive becomes ask you instead of solve it. If you reward chaos, you'll get more chaos. That if you reward discipline, you'll get more discipline. This is Musa's lesson in human form. Even generosity must be designed, or it becomes a shockwave. Musa's story isn't only gold chaos. His reign is also associated with strengthening centers of learning and building projects. Timbuktu becomes famous in global imagination as a place of scholarship and trade. A symbol of that legacy is the Jingareber Mosque, associated with Musa's era. And Europe literally drew him into its imagination. The Catalan Atlas depicts him holding a gold nugget, proof that Mali's wealth and presence had become part of the known world story. So here's the return with the gift. Musa doesn't just leave a trail of spending. He leaves a trail of attention, and attention brings scholars, merchants, architecture, and myth. And myth is a kind of currency too. Mansa Musa proves something most people learn too late. Wealth is not just a blessing. It's a force, and like any force, it must be guided by wisdom, structure, and values, because the system around you will respond whether you're ready or not. So if you're on your way to making it, remember this: don't just chase money. Build the system that can hold it. Because if you don't design your generosity, your success will design you. And if you ever feel overwhelmed, just be grateful. You didn't accidentally cause a 12-year market story that historians still argue about. If you want more stories where history explains modern life, subscribe and comment. Gold Shock. If you've ever seen money change the way people act,